In February 2023, tropical cyclone Gabrielle tore across the north and eastern regions of New Zealand, causing flooding, loss of life and severe damage to property. Hawke's Bay was one of the worst affected regions, with several million cubic metres of silt dumped on orchards, vineyards and farms. Very soon after this catastrophic event, Plant and Food Research began investigating a variety of ways to help with the recovery.
Plant and Food Research, after Gabrielle, realized that the devastation was widespread and that farmlands were extremely affected by the amount of silt and alluvial soil deposited, and we needed to support growers. So right after that, we went search for the industry and see how we could provide help for them. We know that historically we grow crops in alluvial soils that we call silt here after this event, but we didn't know much about it, especially after extreme events. Some of the questions we wanted to answer were, for example, does any crop grow here? What kind of crops would grow? What types of seed do we need? What types of root systems we expect to grow in this silt that we don't know how it works? The crops that we chose and why we chose them were based on the size of the seeds and the types of root structure. So we wanted to see if roots had enough reserve to go through the silt and reach the topsoil below, and if root systems, once they started growing, if they were able to get nutrients and water and support plant growth. We have connections with growers and industry around Hawke's Bay in general. And one of these connections was with NH Packing that we met right after the cyclone events. And we knew that they had some land affected by silt, and they were probably looking at leaving the land for a few years without growing anything, just because the cost might be too large and the uncertainty is too big. So they led us talking and got us the opportunity to use a piece of their land to do our experiments.
NH Packing is a growing, packing and harvesting business based here in Hawke's Bay. Main business is export squash with domestic pumpkin as well. We do also grow sweet corn, beetroot for processors like McCain's and Watties. So Gabrielle happened right in the middle of our harvest period. We were severely affected with about 50% of our crop lost for the season. It limited our ability to select land for the following season due to flooding and silt deposit. So we had to look at options going forward to what crops we were to put in and where we were to put them. Early after the cyclone, the conversation was had with industry, and it gave us the ability to talk to Plant and Food and then obviously offer our land for research. I feel there's been some good learnings from this with some of the crops that have been grown, and really opened my eyes to what we could do after an event like this in the future. Different levels of silt deposit does influence what crops are able to be planted, but in a situation similar to this, I think a maize crop, looking at the trials that have been done, could be a good option as a way to get back into the cropping cycle.
Looks good to me.
Looks good, eh?
Maize did really well. Right after we planted, the emergence was really good. Plants started growing fast because it was warm. And with a bit of irrigation, plants grew really tall and did pretty well, as you can see. So this is a trench that we dug to show how maize roots are growing through the silt and reaching the soil below. And here we can see a mark from the silt line. So this is about 10 to 15 centimeters of silt right on top of the soil. It has barely any structure. It's very clay and it breaks quite easy when it's like this. We believe that at this stage, maize use some of the nutrients that we added on top of the silt, but also after some time, the roots grew enough to reach the rich soil below. Here we are in the glass house at Plant and Food Research site. And this is an experiment as a follow-up from our field trials. And in this experiment, we try to replicate what happened in the field, but also try to understand why we found the responses that we've seen in the field. So here to my right, we have carrots. Right here, we have peas. And here to my left, we have a combination of flowers and natives that hopefully will also be related to nice beneficial insects to appear back to our crops. The carrots here, they were chosen because they were small seeds and they struggled in the field quite a bit. And the peas here is because in the field we didn't have a yield. They shattered and they were very dry early on, so they did not grow well in the field. So here in the greenhouse, we're trying to see why is that they didn't grow so well. What we've seen is that silt can be very compact, and then plants struggle to grow through the silt. Roots will have to work way harder to cross and to search for nutrients in the silt. And we also don't really know how much water gets on top of the silt or if it goes through what's the drainage type like. We want to establish if the water will move through the silt and reach the soil, if the nutrients will move with the water, and if the nutrients will stay on top in the silt or goes straight. And the mixing comes with the idea that maybe farmers can then mix and incorporate the silt into their original soil. So here we can say if that's going to work and what is the maximum depth that can work. What we're trying to achieve here is first a fast and efficient recovery for Hawke's Bay after Gabrielle. Then next we want to extrapolate what we learn here to other regions in New Zealand. And then hopefully in future eventual events like this, we're going to have a better idea of how to get back to our feet.